More concerning updates on the Baltimore Ravens tight end room, particularly Mark Andrews, were revealed, and it's not good.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire. On today's show, getting into some training camp notes from what happened at practice on Tuesday. We'll also dive into, in the second part of the show, Nate Wiggins going down at practice. That did happen. We know that. We got an update from Ian Rapoport that was very positive, no structural damage, but we got some other updates that came in over the course of Tuesday evening, so we'll get to those. But in the first part of the show, man, this tight end room, not great right now. And there have been some concerning updates that have surfaced, and a lot of people who are covering this team that are at training camp right now doesn't feel like they're very thrilled with how those tight ends look currently. So we'll talk about the updates for Mark Andrews, the tight end group as a whole, because I feel like everybody's talking about it right now. So again, thanks for being here. Again, if you want to go over, we started off a new show here under the Locked On Ravens umbrella, Locked On Ravens Hit. It's on a new channel. Hit the like and subscribe button over there, video form, audio form. It's like a mini version of the main show here on Locked On Ravens, about 5 or 6 minutes per episode twice a day. And I'll tell you this, it is actually my 7-year anniversary today of hosting Locked On Ravens. So I'll spare you the words I'll say about that until the final part of the show. I'll get right into the content here, but it's been an awesome journey, and I'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in a few segments. But let's talk about this whole Mark Andrews and Ravens tight end situation. I mean, it's not great right now. We talked about Andrews and the struggles that he's had on Monday. We really did a deep dive into that. Well, here we are just a couple days later, and there have been more updates and situations that have surfaced on the Ravens tight end room. And like I mentioned, feels like everybody's talking about it. Brian Wacker of the Baltimore Sun, who is out there doing his thing at training camp, he said, quote, among other things, Ravens might have some tight end concerns. None have particularly impressed. You also have updates from a couple of guys who are out at training camp. Ken McCusick was on 105.7 The Fan with Jeremy Kahn, Rob Long, and his update on Mark Andrews. Ken McCusick said, quote, there's tremendous pressure on Andrews. Lamar has been forcing the ball into him. He's gotten a fair number of targets, probably had an average of 4 targets per day. In 10 days of practice, he's probably had 7 drops, maybe 8. One of the problems is separation. I mean, he just doesn't seem to have the kind of separation he used to have. Honestly, Lamar could be targeting him even more, and that was always the problem in past years. So throw the ball to Mark Andrews. He won't throw the ball to anybody else. This year, Mark doesn't seem to be open enough for him to do it. That's super concerning. Not just the drop problem. Like the drops are one thing. I mean, you could argue the bigger problem is the fact that he can't get open and can't separate from guys as well as he used to. And that's kind of the theme that we got. I mean, Cordell Woodland, whose update we gave on Monday, he had another one on Tuesday after practice, and he said, quote, not a sharp day for the offense, and really specifically the tight end group. I just think they continue to struggle. Nobody in that group is separating themselves from the other, and that in itself is a bad sign because Mark Andrews, who's there to be the veteran of the group, it's just looking like a struggle for Mark. He's struggling to hold on to the ball, struggling to make any splash plays down the field. Doesn't look like he's on the same page as Lamar to this point in camp. Just unusual for him, at least in training camp, to this point. Nikhil Metzo, Baltimore beatdown. He actually went further and talked about Josh Cuevas because he actually mentioned that for Cuevas, drops have been a little bit of an issue for him, which, great. Everybody's just dropping passes in the tight end room, I guess. But Nikhil on Mark Andrews said, quote, with Andrews, I get the sense that injuries and age may have reduced his overall athleticism a little bit. Now he's not able to win routes with pure athleticism the same way that he used to. He's going to have to introduce more nuance and more intentionality in setting up defenders in his routes. Man, I hate to say this. This might be the first time in a while that, based off of these updates and everything, and again, it's still early-ish enough in training camp where I'm not fully hitting the panic button, but I'm getting close, and feels like Mark Andrews might be washed based off these updates. I mean, again, age happens to everybody. injuries, whatnot. Like it's not great, right? Like this is something that's super concerning. And the fact that Andrews has been like this in training camp and has not looked good. I mean, look, seems like every update is like the tight end group, not great, not great. And then Mark Andrews struggling, drops, whatever it may be. And then, while the rookies have made solid plays, I feel like over the course of training camp, it's so much pressure to put on those guys, especially because there's already so much pressure on Mark Andrews. It's kind of the same stuff that we did talk about on Monday's episode of Locked On Ravens. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to go do so. But like, this is the path that they took. The tight end room to me feels like how I felt about the offensive line last year before the season, which is like, it could work, but there's too much risk. And now the good news in that comparison is that, the offensive line is a much harder position to overcome struggles in than the tight end group. I still think that even if the tight end group struggles, not great, but it's much better than having your line struggle. But at the same time, the Ravens put a ton of confidence in Mark Andrews. Again, the Isaiah Likely situation, it happened. The Ravens did not re-sign Isaiah Likely. They re-signed Mark Andrews instead. And whatever the contract situation was with Likely in Baltimore, whether they offered him contracts, he turned them down, whether they gave the Likely money to Andrews, whatever it was, however that situation played out, I don't know how it played out, so I can't speak to it. But look, obviously, I wish they had kept Isaiah over Mark. I've been pretty consistent on that. I mean, that was the very clear and obvious move. And whether it was the two couldn't agree on a contract or the Ravens wanted to keep Andrews over Likely, again, I don't know what that was. If anybody knows, put it in the comments. I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm not going to speak on that. But at the same time, you could have done more. Like this to me is one of the rare blemishes on Eric DeCosta's 2026 offseason resume. I thought they could have done a better job at tight end, particularly signing a veteran. They have Durham Smythe, and Nikhil talked about Durham Smythe being a guy that's helped out the rookie tight ends. It's not about Durham Smythe. It's about the fact that Durham Smythe is, not replacing Isaiah Likely in that room and, is more of a Charlie Kohler replacement. But I think you needed to replace both. And I have a lot of high hopes for Hibner and Cuevas, but it's just so many expectations to put on those guys. And I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm definitely not saying that. I think they're super talented, but there's a chance that they don't, and Mark Andrews doesn't, and Durham Smythe is not obviously a pass catching threat. I mean, I've talked about this, right? Their Isaiah Likely replacement was Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt. Like that was their Isaiah Likely replacement. They did it in the wide receiver room. The way this offense looks is going to look a lot different, personnel-wise than it did under Todd Monken and Greg Roman. This is Declan Doyle's vision for his offensive personnel. But, they need Mark to be good this year because he's their only proven option in that room that can be a pass-catching threat. But from what everybody's saying, feels like he can't separate. He's dropping passes. It's been a bad training camp. Essentially, it's a nice version of saying he looks washed. And I don't want that to be the case for Mark. I'm rooting for Mark really hard because, first of all, he came he came on the show. I mean, I talked to him. He's an awesome guy, super inspirational in terms of his story. And I want to see him bounce back. But, these updates are super concerning. I mean, we can't ignore, what these guys who are out there at training camp every day are saying. And, I'm curious to hear what Q has to say when we get him back on here. He's supposed to come on today, but I had a situation with travel and whatnot. Was supposed to come on here today. Unfortunately, didn't work out, but Q will come back on. Q's been on here for years. And I want to ask Q about that. And because Q's also been vocal about Mark Andrews on the show over the last couple of weeks. So it's a trend. It's not a good one. I'm rooting for Mark. It's still early in training camp. Again, I'm not particularly slamming on the panic button right now, but I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't concerned. And they're not going to sign another tight end. They're not going to cut anybody here. I mean, Mark's on the roster. He's on his big deal that he got. You could technically cut Durham Smythe, but you're not going to do that, I don't think. And you're not going to cut the rookies, and you're not keeping 5 tight ends. So this is your group. This is who you're rocking with this season. And so far, I guess the updates, we've heard some encouraging updates at times from the rookies, right? Like some Durham Smythe updates as well. Mark has had a couple of plays where, we're like, hey, that's good for Mark. But overall feels like a lot of people were out there in Owings Mills do not like how that tight end room has been looking, particularly Mark Andrews so far. Coming up, though, in the second part of the show, we'll be talking about Nate Wiggins. Got to talk about that situation. We got the update from Ian Rapoport. We mentioned that in the 6 p.m. show, but more updates have poured in after that. So stay tuned when it's coming up on the show. Support for today's episode comes from Square. Behind so many of the local businesses people visit every day is Square, a platform designed to help businesses sell, manage, and grow. Whether it's a neighborhood coffee shop, a packed sports bar on game day, or your favorite restaurant, Square brings payments, banking, and more together in one connected system. It helps business owners spend less time managing technology and more time focusing on their customers. Square isn't just a payment processor. It's a complete business platform built to simplify the day-to-day. From accepting every major payment method to managing inventory and helping businesses access their earnings faster, Square gives owners the tools they need to run their business with confidence. It's the little things for me, like when a restaurant is slammed but the staff never looks stressed, or when checkout is fast no matter how busy it gets. You're not waiting around, nothing feels chaotic, and it just feels organized. That kind of experience usually comes from having Square keeping everything connected in the background. If you're starting a business or running one that deserves better tools, Square helps you sell, manage, and grow without slowing down. Right now, you get $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. That's SQARE.com/GO/LockedOnNFL. Run your business smarter with Square. Get started today. Moving along, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Wednesday edition of the show. Thanks so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, another number one sports podcast network. We have you covered with that 5-day week plus more daily Ravens coverage here twice per day, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern time. Plus, we have bonus episodes, instant reactions, watch-alongs, the squad show, and so much more. Again, watch-along starting up again, where we sit in here, watch the games together. I can't display the game on the screen or anything, but we have it up, we watch it. I have it on my screen over here. I'm not projecting it on the screen, it's not next to me on the screen, but it's still a fun time. We have an awesome community, and so many different things. Also, again, Locked On Ravens hit. Be sure you go hit the like and subscribe button over there on the new channel, video form, audio form. Nothing's changing here on Locked On Ravens, but it's the mini version of this big Locked On Ravens show, but not many in content. Tons of stuff coming out there over on Locked On Ravens hit. But let's talk about Nate Wiggins, right? The story of the day on Tuesday, which honestly was kind of a roller coaster, if we're being honest, right? I mean, Nate was carted off the field at practice on Tuesday. Jesse Minter expressed some early optimism, but really just we didn't know anything at that time situation. But then we got an update from Ian Rapoport saying that there was no structural damage for Nate Wiggins, which obviously is, an absolutely massive deal when it does come down to it. But then there were some other updates that were put out after the fact, after the Ian Rapoport update. And Jeff Zrebiec of The Athletic reporting said, quote, as Ian Rapoport reported, the Ravens, after Nate Wiggins' MRI, believe that the young cornerback avoided a major injury. Per source, he could be sidelined for a bit, but the expectation is that he'll be back, or that he's back sooner rather than later. So that's big. And then Jordan Schultz, he also put out his update on the situation that said sources of the early belief is Ravens cornerback Nate Wiggins, who was carted off at practice today, avoided a major injury, and there is no ligament damage. He'll continue to undergo tests, but the early signs are that he'll come out of it better than initially feared. It definitely felt like there was worry. I was worried about it. He was in a ton of pain. It was rough. And actually, Josh Tolentino of the Baltimore Sun, he gave an account of what happened. Josh saying that Nate Wiggins appeared to suffer a serious lower body injury in practice and needed to be carted off the field. The injury occurred during one-on-ones. Wiggins matched up against rookie wide receiver Jacoby Lane, who ran a fly down the left sideline. Quarterback Lamar Jackson lofted the ball to the back of the end zone. Wiggins and Lane got tangled up and tumbled to the ground. And apparently Wiggins stayed on the grass, looked to be in immediate pain. Trainers rushed over, quickly called over the medical cart. Wiggins boarded the cart and rode from the side, staying hunched over during the trip indoors. Jeff actually gave his account of the situation as well in an article on The Athletic. So if you haven't checked out Jeff's article, be sure to do so, because there, is information in there as well. So Jeff saying he appeared to take an awkward step, tumbled to the ground, immediately grabbed his left leg, started writhing in pain, and the athletic training staff immediately helped him onto the medical cart nearby. So, there's a lot to unpack, very emotionally charged situation. And, Jeff noting that Ravens players and decision makers were certainly concerned on the field, and said several players, including Lamar Jackson, consoled Nate Wiggins as he was loaded onto the cart. And Adrian Dixon had been with Wiggins, returned to the field to speak with Eric DeCosta. Jesse Minter came over to join the conversation as well. So, seemed like a serious situation. I mean, it was a serious situation as it was going on. But, this is, again, as I mentioned on the PM show, one of the best case, if not the best case scenarios for what this situation could have turned into with Nate Wiggins. I mean, look, Nate is so important to their defense, so important to their secondary. And I feel bad for him that he's going through this. At the time that I'm recording this, I don't have the specific injury itself. I'm sure that, there will be an update on it by the time I'm done recording this. And it'll probably come sometime this morning once I'm done with this show and it comes out. So when there's an official update on the injury, whether that is today or tomorrow, whatever it may be, we'll talk about it here on the show. But seems like if anything, Nate just might be sidelined for a week or two, hopefully, and then that's it. I mean, best case scenario is back on the field today, but that's obviously not happening. So, I mean, unless some miracle happens, which I guess crazier things have happened, but we shall see with that. I do think that the one concern point, which I did mention on the PM show as well, is that, you don't want it to be an injury that's like Isaiah Likely's or Lamar Jackson's or, like these lingering injuries that can maybe have an impact on how he plays. Right now we're a month out from the regular season, so there's still plenty of time for Nate to recover, depending on what actually it is. But, seems like based off all the reporting, Baltimore feels like, the outcome that is actually here is better than the outcome that was initially feared. So at least there is that. In the meantime, though, with Nate being out, the corner depth looks like Marlon, Humphrey, Chidobe-Awuzie, and TJ Tampa as your top three. And again, if you didn't see the episode that we did yesterday on the TJ Tampa trade conversations that have been happening with the Ravens, apparently, where teams have been calling the Ravens, be sure to check that out first of all. But, good thing they didn't trade TJ Tampa away. I mean, they traded TJ Tampa away and this happened, would have been even crazier. Everybody would have been freaking out even more. So yeah, just lots of context behind every situation. And it's hopefully everything is a-okay and all clear. But, the reports from, Ian Rapoport, Jeff Zrebiec, Jordan Schultz, not the updates based off how everybody was talking about it. Like, I wouldn't have thought those would have been the updates, but I'm very glad that they are. Very glad Nate seems to be better than a lot of people feared. And we'll just have to wait and see for an official update on what the injury and timeline actually looks like for him. But, best case scenario in terms of updates, I think we could have gotten overall, at least the initial updates, all things considered. But in the final part of the show, we will talk about training camp notes from Tuesday and a lot more. So be sure to stay tuned when coming up on the show. Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a private boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep, and I get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. There are certain players where every at-bat feels like something big could happen. That's what makes Daily Dingers fun. You get to back the player you think is ready to go deep that day. Right now over on FanDuel, I'm looking at the Red Sox and Blue Jays game tonight, and you know what? I'm feeling Adley Rutschman homer. I just feel it. Right now on FanDuel, he's plus 750 to hit a homer. I'm liking those odds over on FanDuel. So, are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and sprinkle the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. Continuing on, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Wednesday edition of the show. Thanks so much for being here and making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. If you have a friend or a family member who is a Ravens fan or wants some daily Ravens coverage, be sure to send them over here our way on Locked On Ravens. Plus, you can also follow me on social media at KALSHI34 on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the whole 9 yards. And don't forget, Locked On Ravens hit. Got to plug it. subscribe in video form, follow along. Subscribe in audio form, follow along. Look at me in the description down below. So if you want the link, it's down there. I'll make it easy for you. Just gotta go to that link, and there you go. It's right there. So we're gonna get into some training camp updates. But as I said in the first part of the show, today is my 7-year anniversary of hosting Locked On Ravens. It has been an absolutely incredible journey. I'm very grateful and appreciative of all the support I've gotten over these years. I'm so excited for what's ahead in the future as well. I mean, today is episode 1,833 consecutively. I've never missed one episode of this show, every single weekday. I've never had one off day of doing this. And that to me is because, it's important to me to continue delivering daily Ravens news and updates every single day, right? There's been such a community built here on Locked On Ravens, video form, audio form, social media, everything that we've built up. I mean, none of it's possible without the support of everybody here on the network, without the support of everybody who is listening and watching. Whether this is your first time listening, maybe you're an everyday, you're going to listen every single day. You've been with me for, 2 days, a year, 5 years, all 7 years, whatever it may be. I mean, it's been unbelievable. And, there are so many people that I'd be here for like 2 hours thanking everybody if we don't have time for that, unfortunately. But, it's been really awesome to, cover a team that I grew up loving and, giving updates on them, going through the ups and the downs of it together with everybody here. I feel like, don't go back and listen to my first episode. I mean, the first episode I did on August 12th, 2019 was about Zrebiec, which is, wild. Even that's a throwback name, right? But, this team has changed a lot over the last, 7 years. And, it's crazy to think 2019 was 7 years ago too. It makes me feel kind of old, but at the same time, I can't thank everybody enough. Seriously, the support has been unbelievable. It's been so cool seeing this thing grow and scale. And, I'm like I said, I'm so excited for what's coming in the future. And, I feel like we're in for a fun year this year. We've had some great moments during seasons. Haven't covered a Super Bowl yet here, unfortunately, but hopefully that is coming very, very soon. So thank you again. And let's dive into these training camp updates now, right? Why don't we do that? So Baltimore on Tuesday, Nate Wiggins was the big story, but the defensive back stepped up after Nate Wiggins exited practice. And, some quick notes here. Marlon Humphrey had one of his best practices, according to Ryan Mink of BaltimoreRavens.com. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that on Locked On Ravens Hit, actually, so be sure you tune into that. But Marlon Humphrey bouncing back, he's been on the receiving end of a lot of Jacoby Lane highlights. So, good for him in that regard. Had some nice plays and was, able to establish himself there. TJ Tampa, also one of the standouts of training camp. He had a sack and a broken up pass. Tez Walker did slip by a Tampa tackle on the sideline for a long game, though. So Tez Walker getting, the better of TJ on that one play. Bilal Kone nearly intercepted Lamar Jackson pass intended for Tez Walker, blanketed a receiver during one-on-ones, and shared a sack with outside linebacker Adisa Isaac. So, man, that's great for Kone because he's one of those guys that's competing for a final defensive back or cornerback roster spot, and that's a heck of a way to get it if you keep making plays like that or keep stacking practices like that. So hopefully he can continue that. Chandler Rivers notched a sack on Lamar Jackson, broke up an end zone fade intended for Elijah Surratt at the end of practice as well. And Surratt actually caught the pass initially, according to Ryan here, but Chandler Rivers fought through the catch point to knock it loose. And, that's 5'10" Chandler Rivers right there, making a play, making an impact. And also Ryan saying second-year safety Keandre Jackson also won his red zone one-on-one rep against rookie tight end Josh Cuevas. It was an up-and-down day for Cuevas, who may have caught more passes than anyone, but also had a couple of drops. All right, in its full circle moment here on Locked On Ravens, we start. Oh man, the tight end room, the tight end room. I said what I said in the first part. I have concerns about it. Hopefully these guys can step up. Again, it's not like these guys have all. It's not like the tight ends have all just been horrible for every single second of training camp, right? That's very unfair to say, and it's not true. But yeah, it's very concerning right now. That's what I'll say about that. Tyler Loop stayed hot, going 7-7 on his live field goal attempts, 34, 35, 39, 39, 41, 42, 47, and the third straight day that Tyler Loop has not missed. So huge deal there. And Tez Walker apparently had perhaps the best day of anyone on the offensive side, rose up to catch a laser from Lamar on a slant route in the red zone, according to Ryan. Cornelius Johnson, wide receiver, made the catch of the day with a diving touchdown grab. And Aeneas Peebles' return to the field after being sidelined was almost too quick on one snap when he nearly took the handoff from Jackson himself. Peebles also batted down a pass later in practice. Man, we talk about fifth string running back and Aeneas Peebles out here. Is that what we're taking handoffs from Lamar? You sign me up for that. I gotta talk to Q about that one. But yeah, I mean, look, the offense has struggled for the last handful of days of training camp. You know, they started off really quickly over the first couple of days, but struggled. And I talked about this on Locked On Ravens Hit, right? Like, it's good for both sides to get this experience, get these reps in. I've talked about it here as well. Like, the iron sharpens iron thing is real. And so, we're just going to have to kind of see how the rest of it unfolds, but I'm very excited for the possibility of, what this team can do this season. And part of that is because when you're going up against a great defense like the Ravens or a great offense like the Ravens have all that talent, it's going to make your job easier on Sundays when you're not going up against all that talent. And you say, hey, I'm going up against all these guys in practice on a daily basis. This is nothing to me. So hopefully that's the case that we get to see on Sundays. But that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Otherwise, sure to like and subscribe button in video form, follow along, subscribe in audio form, and turn notifications on as well, as when our content comes out. And don't forget about Locked On Ravens Hit. Like and subscribe over there, video form, audio form. It's a new channel. Link will be in the description down below as well. Coming up back here at 6 p.m. for the 6 p.m. show and 7:30 for the squad show. Then back here tomorrow at 6 a.m. as our regularly scheduled programming continues. So stay tuned, buddy, coming up, and I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.